Hey Villa fam, welcome back to another episode of Honest Conversations with Two Village Girls. I'm Angie,
I'm Serena.
and this season we'll be talking about difficult talks that are typically hard to discuss but definitely needed in the home. This week we'll be talking about suicide.
This is definitely one of those conversations that need to be had at home because it affects so many people,
Mm-hmm.
just any age and walk of life.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There are a lot of things to remember when it comes to suicide. Angie, you want to get us started?
Yeah, one big thing I wanted to mention is that people who like experience suicidal thoughts or have these like feelings, it doesn't make you a weak person. It doesn't mean that you're like you can't handle certain things. It just really means that you have a lot of pain, a lot of built up. It's a lot of darkness like going on inside, bad thoughts and bad negative energy and all of that. And it really doesn't make you weak. It actually makes you strong for dealing with the things that you're dealing with for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's like kitchen sinking. It's like letting the dishes pile up and pile up and pile
Mm,
up. At some point it's bound to overflow and fall over.
yeah, and it becomes like a burden. Now you just have so many burdens, just
Mm-hmm.
just walking through life with so many burdens.
Yeah. And nobody deserves to do that.
Absolutely not.
Another thing to remember is that it doesn't mean that you didn't try your best. We just naturally, as humans, we like to be independent. We like to do things and make sure we're
Mhm.
doing things to the best of our ability. But there are times that we need to ask for help or just need help in general. Maybe we don't know how to ask. Maybe we just haven't found the right person to ask or someone we feel comfortable enough to talk to about it.
Mhm.
But that doesn't reflect poorly on us as people. It just means that it's our time to cry for help, ask for help, do what we need to. If anything, that's even doing better for yourself.
Yeah. Another thing that makes it hard for us to like go ask people for help is that sometimes we already thinking that we are like already a burden enough, so it's just like dang, I want to continue adding stress onto somebody else's life by telling them that I need help or something like that.
Absolutely. There's this stigma, this judgment that comes with needing help and asking for help in some cases for those that don't believe in mental health crises or
Hmm.
suicide. They people that think that there's weakness involved in that. There's that stigma that someone's going to judge you because you're in this place and not wanting to be judged further.
Hmm. Yeah, so another thing is that I know a lot of people, we all know that this conversation is very, very hard to have.
Mm-hmm.
It like it brings up different emotions.
Oh yeah.
It's just like it's just sometimes really, really tough to have, but we wanted to talk about it because we want our villagers, our listeners to know that having this conversation is definitely needed, and it helps. It really does help. And
I agree with you. I feel like it's better to have the conversation over something small. Like, okay, I'll use myself as an example. I don't like to ask for help in certain situations because I feel like I minimize my own feelings sometimes and I'm just like, "Oh, other people go through this.
yeah.
It's not a big deal. I'm just being like over dramatic." But the reality is it's better to ask for help in those small things
Hmm.
rather than let it build up and build up and build up to a point where it's this big thing that you're not sure if you can ask for help or you don't have the strength to ask for help
Yeah,
anymore.
I agree.
And a lot of things are out of our control. Things happen that we aren't prepared for. That's unfortunately a part of life. Like we can have everything, all our ducks in a row, and
Hmm.
something will pop out of nowhere, like COVID, for example.
Yep. And nobody was expecting that, and it just came out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah. And it came with a lot of baggage. It came with a lot of things that we had to readjust our lives, essentially, like change the way we've been living for the last 20 something years.
I know we try to have a lot of control over our own lives, but
Mm-hmm.
some things just happens, like it literally just happens, and it's really nothing we really can do about it at all. Another big thing I wanted to talk about was that a lot of people think that talking about suicide will lead to them actually committing suicide, but that's not really true. Like bringing up how they're feeling and what's causing their suicide, it's going to help them. It helps them more because they can come to you and talk to you about how they're feeling instead of feeling like they're alone and that they're just dealing with what they're dealing with by themselves.
That in itself is a cry for help. That's
Yeah,
like a big step. It's listening to those people that are telling you how they're feeling, because ultimately what that person is saying is that they trust you and
yeah,
you're their person that if anything happens to them, they know that they can count on you to help them, protect them, even if it means protecting them from themselves at the moment.
especially if they probably already thinking that nobody understands them, like nobody is going to understand their thought process or their
Yeah,
pain. So if they do come to you and ask and really ask them for help, that is a big cry for help. That is a big step.
absolutely. And also on along the same lines, I want to talk about helping those that don't ask for help, where you know someone is going through something and you can tell that they're off and they're saying don't tell anyone. In those situations, I really feel like that's a trust your gut situation. If you feel like that's too much for you to handle or like manage, it's
Mhm.
important that you seek like professional help. That going further might actually end up saving their life one day. While they may be mad at you initially,
Yeah,
they'll come out and thank you someday, or maybe they won't thank you, but in the end you will have helped them.
yeah, definitely. That one, that's the hard one too.
Yeah,
Like having somebody come to you and just say like, I don't want you to share anybody, but I'm gonna tell you what's been going on.
it's like breaking trust, but at the same time, if breaking trust saves your life, it's a worthy cause, because ultimately my goal is to make sure that people are safe.
Yeah, that's true. And me, my goal, I like helping people, so I just feel
Yeah.
like I'm not really helping you by sitting here doing nothing. Like I have to get you some help, regardless of what you think is best for you right now. I know that you
Yeah.
need professional help, you know?
Especially if it starts out as a regular conversation and then slowly it gets too deep for even your comfort. If you become uncomfortable at any point,
Yeah,
there's no shame in like saying, "Hey, I'm tapping out, but here's someone that's going to help you further,"
yeah, that's true.
because you got to worry about yourself too.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the different things that can contribute to those suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, it's a lot of things that we probably not gonna cover them all, but it's a few
Yeah.
things that we're gonna, touch on. One big thing probably that I would see in children a lot
Mm.
and why they will have like these suicidal thoughts is like having dealing with low self-esteem and like just feeling like they aren't like good enough, aren't worthy enough. They don't know their purpose here for being here on life, and that could be like one thing that just be like that. I don't need to be here anymore. Da da da. That.
Ab- Absolutely. I mean, you see low self-esteem anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Kids,
Adults.
it starts young and it starts with like those first social interactions, going
Mhm.
into school and not fitting in. There's also depression and anxiety that many people believe that kids don't experience, which is far from the truth. They may experience different levels of depression and anxiety,
Yeah, but they explain.
and it's for varying things. Just because it's not something we'd feel as strongly about as adults doesn't mean that they don't feel strongly about things as kids.
Mm-hmm.
They can go through depression and anxiety from a young age and carry that on to adulthood if it's not managed.
Yeah, I agree. They could generally just feel like they're alone. They just don't
Mhm.
have nobody, like nobody understands them, and they just feel like they're just here by themselves. And that can be a lot of stress, and it can lead to those thoughts as well.
Absolutely. And going off of stress, there are different kinds of stress they can go through, like in
Mhm.
school and at home. For example, in school, they can deal with bullying and just not fitting in
Mhm.
and grade slipping or struggling with certain classes can cause stress enough to feel suicidal.
Yeah. And then like in a home, like a lot of different things that can cause stress and make them like have these different thoughts is like, I know a lot of times parents are working a lot, and sometimes those older kids that's like in their teen age have to take care of their younger siblings. They have to like watch them, and then they don't have personal time for themselves. That can
Hmm.
be stressful. They could be going through like different types of abuse in the home, whether that's physical abuse, emotional abuse, that all leads to those types of thoughts. And especially not being understood, like not being understood
Yeah.
by your parents. For one, is that's a lot of like stress on a child when like you don't feel like your parents even understand you. Like you can't come home and like be understood. Like
Oh, absolutely. I think that not being understood can even come from like in a school setting.
yeah,
Like you're trying to just maintain your grades, and maybe your school is your safe place, and having difficulty with teachers or classes can be too much for some kids. It can be too much for anyone if your safe place or just your regular environment you don't feel comfortable in.
yeah. Health problems, like real serious health problems can
Oh
get you
yeah.
to having these thoughts. Like that's one of those things that happens that we have no control over. And sometimes like dealing with serious health problems and health conditions can put you in this like negative headspace and make you have these suicidal thoughts and stuff like that.
Even in situations where it's not serious health conditions, but like in socioeconomic status, for example, people that live in low income
Mm-hmm.
communities that can't afford health insurance, that can't afford like the basic necessities. That alone can be a cause of suicide because simply surviving is too much sometimes. Trying to maintain your diet, your health,
Yeah.
your regular working, school, career moves,
Yeah,
it's hard. It's overwhelming. The
definitely.
odds are stacked against you and you're trying to push forward, but sometimes it gets too much.
That's true.
So, what can we do with all of that? What can we do to help try and prevent those suicide thoughts from overtaking us?
One thing we can do is make suicide a comfortable, like enough topic, a comfortable enough conversation to bring up, especially for the people in your life that you support and love and care about. Like you have to make sure that they know that if they are going through something, like if they are having these suicidal thoughts, that they can come to you and y'all can be able to talk about it and have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. An especially important part of that is having that comfort to say that they need help, especially for the younger to like preteen aged kids.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's important for them to understand those emotions behind that and know that they have trusted adults at home to talk to, or even trusted adults at school. Those
Yeah.
teachers that can sit down with them and talk to them and help them figure out, like, help them navigate through that conversation. And being a trusted adult means knowing your child. So, in my case, knowing my students and observing them and knowing when there's like changes in habit. I talked about this in previous episodes, but I'm very big on like family communication. So when parents pick up their kids at the end of the day, I like to let them know, hey, they had a good day. But if there are days where the child may cry a lot, for example, I'm big on talking to the family and letting them know if I've noticed like a change in their behavior, because ultimately what we both care about most is the child and making sure that the child and the family are doing good.
Hmm. That's true. I do that a lot too at my daycare center. Tell them parents how their child is doing and stuff. But yeah, it is important to like
Mm-hmm.
be able to know like when your child or our students are like off a day and like what's causing it or what could be causing it.
Absolutely. And if all else fails, get professional help. If you feel like you've run out of ideas.
Yeah, we will always like we always would mention to go get professional help if like
Mhm.
you feel like you have done enough and you don't know what else to do. It's always we will always say go get professional help.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we encourage good mental health.
This is where the village comes in. What are things we can do, Angie, to help our loved ones or our village if they're dealing with this?
One big thing, like we always talked about, we talk about a lot of episodes, is being supportive. Like with this hard topic of suicide, like having supportive individuals around you or around that person is very important, and it will help like uplift them, and it just like puts them in a better mood because they know that they have people around them that's supporting them. And also help them to know that it's not their fault. Like when you have support and when somebody's dealing with that situation, you let them know that it's not really their fault. Like I know that
Mm-hmm.
you've been going through a lot. Like this is a hard life to live. Like we all understand. Like
Mm-hmm.
and just being giving them that support that they need and helping them to know that they aren't alone and that they have people to lean on if they need.
I like that you said give them the support that they need. It's important to distinguish that because something that you might need in order to feel better might not be the same thing that they need. So being able to register where they are is
Yeah.
important too. Encourage them to do things that they love is important because it's easy to fall into self-destructive behaviors when you're feeling down and depressed or suicidal. It's easy to just, for lack of a better word, give up. So reminding them of all the things that they enjoy and encouraging them to get back into those things might help with dealing with those feelings.
Yeah.
And then having loved ones with them and reminding them of those things might help also.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing you can do to help your loved ones that's going through this situation is knowing when to step back, knowing when you have done the best that you can, and knowing when that like you have loved ones who come to you with their like stress and their problems, and it becomes a burden on you. So just knowing when like you have dealt with enough and offer them like more help from if it's professional help or whoever other help that can help them.
Yeah. Along the same lines as knowing when you need to step back, remember that when you ask for help or when you are worried about asking for help, the person that you talk to will let you know if they need to step back themselves.
Yeah.
So that's something you don't have to worry about when seeking help yourself.
Absolutely.
So to wrap this up today, we're going to talk about our own experiences, what it's like as a child going through something traumatic and getting into like a suicidal headspace.
hmm So, we always like to share our experiences because, we have dealt with some of these things when we were children, and we just would like to like, I don't know, help guys get through situations because we got through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, when I was younger, I feel like a lot of my suicidal thoughts came from like low self-esteem, like my whole childhood. So I felt like a lot of my sting from that, and knowing that like a lot of other people, like a lot of other females in my class or in my school, they were getting like a lot of attention. They just had boyfriends. They had so many other things, and it was just like, dang, what about me? Why don't I have a boyfriend? So it was like kind of those thoughts, and along with like bullying, like I dealt with bullying a lot, and along with that bullying, it was just like bad rumors that was sent around. So it was like rumors about me doing sexual things that I even had no idea about. Like I didn't have no idea what, oral sex was. And here is a rumor about me, having like oral sex. Like I don't even know what that is, but y'all gonna make this rumor about me. So it was just like a lot of bullying and a lot of like different rumors. And it just made me feel like I was like my feelings during that time was just a lot of like just sad, and I just felt alone. Nobody was here with me. And another big factor is that although I had like a lot of support system around me, like I could have talked to different people, I just still felt alone, and I wouldn't even know how to have brought it up to them, like on how I was feeling. And in my home, like going back home, like after school, it was just like it was no open encouragement. It was no open like conversations about any of the things that I was going through. Like it was no acknowledgement that I was even sad or anything like that. So like all of those, I feel like all of that led to like me having those suicidal thoughts that I experienced when I was a child.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, that's my story.
And what ended up helping you?
I just feel like I think I'm the type of individual that just like keep on pushing. And also like a big thing to me is that I don't know. I feel like I live for my family, so
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like my purpose is for me to help my family, help them have a better life. I didn't go to therapy or anything. Like I didn't have no special adult I could talk to. It's just literally me just pushing through life and just wanting something totally different. A lot of it was, I'm not gonna lie, probably my sister, because your supportive people around you, they always tell you like it's not the answer or just stuff like that. And it just helped me keep pushing. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm glad you're here today, of course, my bestie.
I'm glad I'm here too because it's a life to live that I still have to live. So
Mm-hmm. And we gonna make it.
yes, he is. Yes, he is.
A lot of my suicidal thoughts came when I was in middle school into high school, and it was a lot to deal with, just like fear of being unwanted or pushed away. I had a hard time like maintaining relationships because I was used to being with one, like I got passed around in foster care a few times, or I was with someone for a little while and then I'd go somewhere else. And so I attached quickly, but also in attaching quickly, I basically tried to be the perfect child and do everything right. But there was always this constant fear that I was doing something wrong and that I'd end up like being taken away or moved somewhere else. And that kind of carried into school a lot with like making friends and do my friends actually like me? Do I fit in with this group?
Mm.
Am I actually like a good person? Like it carried on. I just kind of had this shadow that followed me. It
Mm.
was a lot of anxiety. The most notable thing I can remember is like having the strength to say, I can't sit in this workshop class right now because they were using like these big saw blades. And I'm just like, I'm not comfortable sitting in here. I need to go.
Yeah.
So like I was able to speak up and say like, hey, I'm reaching a point that I'm not sure like how to express, but I just know I don't feel comfortable here. That was actually around the time that I started therapy.
Okay.
I saw my therapist pretty frequently. And at first I didn't feel like as most kids, and there's that stigma of therapy, I was very like disinterested,
Yeah, me too. I get it.
but it helped me a lot. It helped me understand myself a lot more and really process through what I was feeling, because even at the time where I'm expressing like I'm not comfortable here, I didn't know why.
Yeah.
To this day, I can't pinpoint exactly what it was that triggered a reaction out of me, but I just knew something wasn't right. And so my therapist was able to like break that down for me, which is why I'm such a big advocate for therapy, especially with young children.
Yeah. I feel like when we tell our stories and I listen to your story that we just have so much in common, like when we was getting like our personalities when like
Mm-hmm.
we was younger. I just be thinking about how much the same we are. Even though it's like different circumstances, it's just feel like we the same. We still like thought the same. We still like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've always said we're like twins.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here today too.
Thank you,
Yeah.
honey.
Both of us are strong individuals. And I just feel like like for me, I know my biggest thing is I don't like giving up. So I will always
Mhm.
like push through no matter what. But
Yeah.
like we just strong and we're able to like push through.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. We've made it this far.
Yeah,
Nothing's gonna stop us. And now we have each other to protect each other.
that's true. That's really, really true.
We are our village.
Oh, girl, yes.
Well,
Yes, yes.
with that being said, thanks for tuning in again to another episode with Two Village Girls. Please subscribe to our channel if you are new. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. Also, go ahead and hit that bell to get notified when new videos drop. Please follow us on all our social media, which will be listed in the description box below. And as always, we want to send you out some positive vibes to get you through the rest of your week. This week's inspirational quote is by an unknown author who says, "The pain you hid overtook you like the darkness overtakes the sun. But I comfort myself in knowing that even on the darkest nights, stars still shine." Thanks, Villa fam. Bye.
Bye.